Hey, what's up, everybody? Ralph here. So, earning reports came out for Facebook today, and it's not looking too good. Now, you could blame whether it's because of inflation or recession. Me personally, I just don't think Facebook is that good, and that's just me. That's me personally. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. Last year I canceled my account, and only until reopen it because I was like, what, this is people do use it for business purposes. So let me just recreate another account, and I still don't even use it. So for me personally, I just don't have that much use for it other than checking up on like friends and family, see what they're up to. But I'm not a big fan of it. If it was something, if it was an individual stock, for me, I wouldn't personally invest in it. But that's just me. But let's see what this article on Market Watch is saying about what's going on with Facebook. So it says the second quarter was as bad as Meta Platforms Inc. executives feared, and the third quarter is expected to be worse. Meta reported its first ever year-over-year decline in revenue on Wednesday, and profit declined for a third consecutive quarter, the first time that has happened since Facebook's first year as a public company in 2012. Shares declined more than 3% in after-hours trading immediately following the release of the results, continuing a downward trajectory for the social media company's shares. The parent company of Facebook reported second quarter earnings of $6.69 billion or $2.46 a share, down from $3.61 a share last year. So the downfall is expected to get worse. Meta executives issued a third quarter revenue forecast of $26 billion to $28.5 billion, while analysts were forecasting $30.36 billion. Facebook reported revenue of $29 billion in the third quarter last year. So obviously they haven't met their earning expectations, and it could be for a lot of reasons. Like you said, there's an inflation, you got the recession. And as you can see, like Mark Zuckerberg, he's like focused now on Meta. He's focused on the metaverse. So maybe that's taken away from his the main platform with Facebook. So maybe that's distracting him a little bit. So obviously he's not as focused because obviously he's putting all his resources into building up this new metaverse. So that could factor in. But obviously when you're talking about a recession or inflation, a lot of companies are not reaching their earning potential. But with Facebook, if you're someone that uses Facebook, you tell me, like, how often you use it. Do you think it's a good product? That is just something that you would see yourself investing in long term? Me personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't use it for much. I'm trying to incorporate it in my business, but obviously not using it that much. So me personally, a lot of experts will tell you invest in something that you use, invest in something that you believe in. And me personally, I don't believe in it, so I wouldn't invest in it. So we seem to have entered an economic downturn that will have a broad impact on the digital advertising business, Meta chief executive Zuckerberg said in a conference call after the results had dropped. And it's always hard to predict how deep or how long these cycles will be, but I'd say that the situation seems worse than it did a quarter ago. He said the company plans to steadily reduce headcount growth over the next year and get more done with fewer resources. So obviously they're going to be letting people go, and that tends to happen during recessions or during times of inflation. When you're not meeting revenue expectations, you're going to reduce labor. So expect, obviously they're already going through a lot of labor cuts, so that expect to have more people lose their jobs because of not reaching earnings expectations. So, tellingly, Zuckerberg added that artificial intelligence-driven recommendations from accounts that aren't followed compromised 15% in Facebook and a little more in Instagram. The percentage, he said, will more than double by the end of 2023. Facebook also announced that longtime Chief Financial Officer David Wayner will transition to a new role as Chief Strategy Officer. Susan Lee, Meta's Vice President of Finance, will take over the CFO role. Facebook executives have blamed inflation, a decline in ad sales, the war in Ukraine, supply chain issues, increased competition from tech services such as TikTok, and most significantly, wrenching changes Apple Inc. Made to its mobile operating system that makes it more difficult for apps to track consumers and ads. So that's another thing. So Apple's doing their own thing, and they're not trying to help out Facebook. So obviously Facebook took a big hit because of that. So Facebook's awful quarter and weak outlook further underline the view that advertisers have been cutting back on spending as the overall economy battles with inflation, higher interest rates, and shifting consumer patterns. So investing.com senior analyst Jesse Cohen said, looking ahead, Facebook still has to figure out how to deal with Apple's new privacy approach that limits tracking users as well as growing popularity of TikTok. In addition, the plethora of headwinds that company is facing, investors now need to worry about the negative impact of potential regulatory actions by the U.S. government. So you got. I mean, obviously they got a lot of things going on. They need to figure out. Obviously with Apple and then obviously inflation. But for me personally, it's just Facebook or whatever you want to call it, Meta. Is just for me is not a good bet long term. But you know what? This could be if you're someone that believes in it. This is a good buying opportunity if you're someone that's looking to invest, right? Obviously, this isn't financial advice, but this is probably a good opportunity if you're someone that believes in Facebook. So it says Zuckerberg's warning of an economic tsunami nearly a month ago will likely lead to fewer hires and cost cutting. The company reiterated in an email message on Tuesday. Any company that wants to have a lasting impact must practice disciplined prioritization and work with a high level of intensity to reach goals. A Meta spokesperson said in a statement to MarketWatch, the reports about these efforts are consistent with the focus and that we've already shared publicly about our operating style. How Meta fares in the near future rests in large part on its audience and establishing advertising rates and frequency. Daily active users, or DAUs, a crucial metric of Meta's growth globally, increased 4% to 2.8 billion, topping analysts' expectation of 1.96 billion and returning to growth after the first ever decline in that metric last quarter. Zuckerberg did a good job of lowering expectation. Lindsay Bell, chief marketing and money strategist at Ally Invest, told MarketWatch, Facebook's higher ROI, she added, has made it and Google somewhat insulated to the same market conditions that have gashed Snap and Twitter. So, and that's another thing. I mean, obviously, Meta, Facebook, they have a lot of resources. Zuckerberg has a lot of money, so he's gonna do whatever he can, whatever it takes to make sure this thing works. So, but like I said, I'm not a big fan of it. Not something I would invest in. But I do have some ETFs. Obviously, the top, 500, S&P 500. So Facebook is in there. So, it helps that it benefits the S&P 500 if Facebook is doing well. But if not, I still, I'm still investing in that. So, but yeah, so. The earnings reports don't look that great with Facebook, so I'm not sure if it's something you would invest in. Me personally, I wouldn't, but that's just me. So let me hear your thoughts. Make sure you leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share, and please do not forget to subscribe. Right, so you guys take care. Have a good one. Later.